everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to do this granny ripple stitch. Now this is a scarf that I have just completed using a variegated yarn, so it's always nice when there's hardly any ends to sew in, but I wanted to show you how it looks when it's worked up into a scarf. And then at the ends we've also got some nice tassels. So it's sometimes hard to tell unless you've got a colour change that it is actually a granny ripple stitch. So that's why a lot of people do quite like to work them in variegated yarns or in separate colours like I will do for the video. But it's always obviously easy to tell at the ends of your projects because you get these nice zigzag ends. But as I say, this is the scarf that I've just finished. It's a really long scarf, so it will wrap round a couple of times and it's going to be super warm. But let's just crack on. So I'm just literally using some scraps of yarn that I've got left over from other projects. So obviously you want to start with your slip knot. And again, if you're not sure how to do that, then just nip and check out my beginner series. Now it's a very simple pattern once you've got going. It is a foundation row and then it is a 1 row repeat. So it is really simple once you get going. But I'm just going to firm up a few pointers with you because I know people tend to struggle with the granny ripple with the edges. So we'll have a little chat about that. Now this foundation chain needs to be done in multiples of 18. So for my scarf that I showed you a moment ago, I did 2 lots of 18 and that is how wide it was. So multiples of 18, so obviously yarn over and pull through, it's 1, 2, 3. So if you want to create your foundation chain to be the width of your project, and I will meet you at that end in just a second, so multiples of 18. So I've chained the width here the same as my scarf, so I've done a chain of 36, and whatever amount you've done at this point you need to add on an additional 6 chains. So another 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're now going to work back along this foundation chain and we're going to create our first proper row. So we want to find the 6th chain from the hook, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and into this 6th chain we are going to do 3 treble crochets. Now remember, I'm working in UK terms here, so this would be 3 double crochets if you were in the US. So to do a UK treble you're going to yarn over, insert into that 6th chain from the hook, yarn over and pull up. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2. So that's 1 treble. You want to do 2 more trebles into that same space. So yarn over, back into that same chain space, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and 1 final one. So yarn over, back into that same space, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We're now going to skip 2 chains, so we're going to skip 1, 2, and into the 3rd you're going to do 3 trebles again. So yarn over into that 3rd stitch along and complete your 3 trebles. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And again you're going to skip 2 stitches, so 1, 2 and 3 trebles into the 3rd. Two, and 3. So you can see now that we have got 3 sets of trebles. So in between each dip and each peak you will have 3 of these clusters. So we now want to create a dip. So to create the dip, we are going to skip 5 chains on this foundation row. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then into the 6th chain we're going to do 3 trebles again. So yarn over, go into that 6th chain along and complete your treble, and then 2 more into that same space. And so that now, when we start working back up, that bit there will create the dip. So we've got 1 set there of our trebles. This time again we're going to go back to skipping 2, so 1, 2, and then 3 trebles into that 3rd one along. So 1, 2, 3, and again, if you remember what I said before, we're going to have 3 sets of these trebles between every dip and peak. So we've got 3 there, then the dip, so we need 3 sets going back up. So we need to do 1 more set, so skip 2 again, and 3 trebles into the 3rd stitch along. So 1, 2, and 3. So we're creating the peak here. So we've done our set of trebles, we're going to chain 3 and then back into that same stitch. So you're doing it in the same one that you just did the last 3 trebles into, and you're going to create your next set. So 3 trebles back into that same space that your other 3 trebles are in. 1, 2, and 3. So you can see there we've now got a dip and we've got a peak. Obviously they will become much more defined on the 2nd row. So we're going to work back down to a dip now. So again, going to skip 2 and 3 trebles into the 3rd. 1, 2, and 3, and again skip 2 and 3 trebles into the 3rd once more. 1, 2, and 3. Excuse the noise of that helicopter. And so when you look at the peak there now, you can see we've got 3 clusters. So now we want to create the next dip. So again, you're going to skip 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then your next cluster will start in the 6th. So yarn over, insert into the 6th chain, and do your next set of 3 trebles. And so now at this point we're going to be doing exactly the same as we did here and working up to our peak. So again, you're going to skip 2 and you're going to continue working that. Now I'm coming to the end of my foundation chain here, so if you want to meet me again now when you get to this point where you're on your last, you've just done your last dip and you're working your way back up, and I will meet you there in a second. But pause or rewind it if you need to. So you're going to have your skip 2 and your 3 clusters, and then you'll create your next peak, and then you will go down to your dip again. But as I say, pause or rewind and work those stitches but I'm just going to stick with you now here because I'm at my other end. So I've done my dip and my 2 sets of clusters. I'm then going to skip 2 as normal, and that is when you should come to your very final stitch. And so if you remember, we've done the dip, so we're working back up to a peak. So you must remember that this is a peak. So you're going to do your 3 trebles into this very final stitch. One, two, and 3. So remember, we're doing a peak, and you do actually need to create your peak. You don't just finish with your 3 clusters. We need to create the peak. So you're going to chain 3, and then back into that same final chain you're going to do 3 more trebles. I'm very sorry if you can hear that helicopter, it seems to be hanging around a little bit. And the 3rd and final stitch now. So that now is our foundation row. So obviously mine's only small because I'm only doing the sample piece or the scarf sized piece, and you can see we finish on a peak at this side. And so this next row now is the row that you will repeat over and over again. So as I say, it's a 1 row repeat, so it's nice and easy. So you want to chain 5, 3, 4, 5, and turn. And into this first chain 3 space, we are going to do 3 treble crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. And now we are going to be working down in between our clusters of these trebles. So we've worked into this first space here, so that is 1 cluster. So we need 3 clusters before our dip. So into this next space here between these clusters, you'll do 3 trebles. 1, 2, and 3. So that's 2 clusters we've got now, and then again 3 trebles in between the next clusters. 2 and 3. So at this point we're going to stop. Don't be tempted to work into that dip space because you don't want to do that, because we have already got our 3 sets of trebles. So we're going to skip over the whole of these stitches. So we're going to skip this cluster, the dip, and the next cluster. So you're going to skip these 2 clusters, and you're going to go straight into a new cluster after that second set. So straight in and create your new cluster. So your 3 trebles, so you can see now our dip is getting much more defined. So we've got our 3 clusters going down, and now we want our 3 going up. So we've got 1 going up now, and then in between the next clusters you will create your next set of trebles. So 1, 2, and 3. And so now we're at our peak where we've got our 2 sets of trebles separated by that chain 3. And so in that peak we want to create a new peak. So we're going to go into that chain 3 space, and we're going to do 1 set of trebles. 2, 3, and then you want to chain 3 to create the new peak, and then back into that same space you're going to do your next set of trebles. So 1, 2, and 3, and then again we are working back down to the dip. So we've got 1 cluster here ready to work back down, so we need 2 more. So you're going to do your next set in between the next clusters. 1, 2 and 3, so that's 2 clusters now, so we need 1 final one in between these next clusters. So 1, 2 and 3. So we've got our 3 clusters going down now. So again we're going to skip over the whole of the dip, so the dipped stitches and these 2 sets of trebles either side. We're going to go straight into the next set after the dip. So you're going to start with your 3 trebles there. So if you want to carry on working that pattern, so again pause or rewind if you feel like you need to, and continue working all the way across your project, and I will meet you as you get back after your final dip here, and we will finish off the row. So obviously I've got 1 set of stitches here after the dip, so I need 2 more, so I'm going to do my next set. And 3, so that's 2 sets now, and then our final stitches are going to be worked into that large loopy chain space at the end. So again we are working up to a peak, so we are finishing with a peak. So 3 trebles, and create the peak, so chain 3, and then 3 trebles back into that same space. Now I'm going to change colours at the end of this row, just so that anyone that wants to do it knows how to do it and at what point to do it. So on your final treble you want to stop when you've got 2 loops on your hook, and you're going to want to get your new colour and grab that new colour and pull it through those final 2 loops, and then you're going to want to do a little chain 1, but remember that chain 1 isn't going to count as a stitch, it is simply to secure that colour change. Now at this point you can snip off your old yarn if you want to, or you can just continue. So to move on to the next row, again chain 5 and turn. So obviously it is that 1 row repeat the whole way across, and you will jump straight across into your first set of trebles in that chain space, that chain 3 space. And you will continue with that pattern. So obviously you can pause or rewind or whatever you need to do and continue working that last row over and over again, remembering that you are always having 3 sets of these trebles in between each dip. So you can see my dip space here, or the peak. So you've got 3 sets going down and 3 sets going up. And doing that you should be able to keep track of where you're up to. Now I just wanted to at this point say that for the first probably 6 or 7 rows it may feel like your edges aren't straight, and if you've been following the pattern then they will be straight, but you just won't be able to tell at this point. I see lots of people all the time saying, oh, my granny's ripple has gone crazy, it's not working right. But if I show you the beginning point of this scarf, so for a while it may look like your edges are either going a little bit out and you might not be able to tell where it is, but I would say for the first up until you get to this point here, you can see that that is where the dips and things that we created with the foundation row. This is the point here where your edges will start to straighten off, because up until when you get to that point, these edges here are obviously on a gradient, so you can see it's going up at an angle. So until you get to this row here, you won't be able to tell very easily whether your edges are straight. Obviously, if you've been following the tutorial, then they will be, but you just might not be able to tell. So this is on row 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, probably at least row 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 before you can really tell. But obviously after that point, the pattern builds up and you will easily be able to tell that your edges are straight. But I just don't want people getting disheartened at the beginning thinking that they've gone wrong, because you do need to get to at least probably row 6 before you can really tell whether you did go wrong anywhere. But hopefully you haven't done, and hopefully you've been able to follow along. But I just wanted to explain that please don't panic straight away when you look at your edges. Work up quite a few rows and just see how you're looking, because like I say, after row 5 or 6, you will be able to start seeing your edges take more shape, because that is at the point where you actually reach the straight edge, because up until that point, they are obviously all zigzaggy. So that is the end of this tutorial. I really hope that you have enjoyed it, and please remember to like and subscribe. But I will see you for another tutorial very soon. Bye for now.